world, it's Masina, and I am here to do a review or share my thoughts on the book by Morris Day, the memoir, On Time, A Princely Life in Funk, written by Morris Day and David Ritz. So I'm just gonna get into it. I've got my notes to keep track of my thoughts because this is my first review and I do not want to give away the entire memoir or the stories inside, but I do want to share my thoughts on them. And I want to say, before I even begin, that the book was great. So basically, the story or the memoir is shared by Morris Day, but it's also shared by and with Prince, because as in old Prince fashion, he always wants to take control. It's like there are more than one person telling this story, one character within the story. I mean, of course, there's gonna be characters in the book, but the story is being told by at least two people, if not three, but I don't want to get into too much detail. But I will say that the way the story is told is very attention grabbing. It feels like Prince has come back from the afterlife, or he is just here telling his story, or telling Morris's story, and making sure that he's got a little bit of control, and also that he is, good point. He's taking control of this story. It seems like Morris is struggling to tell it on his own without Prince sitting back, leaning back, saying, "You really gonna tell that story like that?" The book is titled On Time, and it's appropriate. I wonder if Morris contemplated naming the book The Character, just like the song from his solo album, The Color of Success. Because in the song, it describes his struggles with love and his own persona, his own character that Prince built. So other than two persons telling the story, there is a third who kind of interjects in between Prince and Morris, and I really like that, and that is why the character always comes to mind. And like I said before, it seems as though Morris, in telling his own story, the struggles that he went through in relationships and love, in his career, in his friendship and brotherhood with Prince, it seems as though even in writing this book that he can't even find his voice there because Prince is always in control. It's like sitting back and watching two brothers go at it about a story they're trying to tell, and each person has their own interpretation or their own perception, and you're just sitting back like, wow, this is awesome, because you get that insight. Or my feelings are, I'm sitting back thinking, well, how's he gonna talk to you like that, Prince? Or Morris, you don't let him say that to you? I'm over here in my mind instigating the disagreement between the two, saying, yeah, tell him. But that's it. The story, the way it was told, kept you interested, but it also made you feel like you were there. And that, yes, the story is being told to you, but you're reading it. You're reading it, so you're ingesting the information. But the way the story is told, it's as though you're really sitting there listening to a conversation. You're in the conversation, like, but you have no say in what, you can't say too much, but he's just like, yeah, tell him. At one point in the story, Prince interjects into what Morris is telling him as usual, and says, this is your book. You're going to tell a story or not? And I'm sitting there thinking, like, now it's his book all the time. You're saying, don't tell a story like that. Don't say this, don't say that. Are you going to say this? Are you going to tell him about this? Are you going to tell him about, Purple Rain, your success and that. But then all of a sudden, this is your book, isn't it? I thought that was great. It shows that Prince and Morris had a true connection because they were brothers. I mean, they grew up together. They were in it together from the very beginnings. Whether it was recording songs together, recording movies together, having disagreements and fights together, sharing the same women, all this stuff, partying together. But they were together, and when I'm reading the book, it's a reminiscence of, or reminds me of, the fact that they were together for so long, for years. Whether they parted ways for a bit, there was a sense of Prince still had not control, not in this instance, but a connection. They had a connection, and Prince always kept Morris in the back of his mind because I feel like they influence each other and they really, really love each other. And they respected each other's work. And they respected each other. Maybe they didn't agree on everything, but they respected each other because I think that Prince was afraid of Morris Day and his potential because they were so much alike. Now, going back to the character, my self-titled, I titled this book The Character. But anyway, going back to the character, Prince created Morris Day, the persona of Morris Day, or the alter ego of Morris Day, Purple Rain Morris Day. And I believe that was Prince's alter ego. Morris Day, Purple Rain's Morris Day was Prince's alter ego, and that's why Prince had so much, he felt like he needed so much control. And I think that's why the book is called A Princely Life. It's Morris Day's life, but again, you can't tell the story of Morris Day without telling the story of Prince. One thing that Morris does in the book is he always gives credit to Prince's leadership and influence. And sharing his struggles, he takes responsibility for his lack of success. In our eyes, he's successful, but in his eyes, or his reality is that he wasn't as successful as he wanted to be, but he takes responsibility for those losses and success through his personal struggles. The history between Morris and Prince, it is great to always hear about the background stories, the food fights, the recording of Purple Rain, and how they had to have acting classes and dance classes, and how these things we've already heard. But Morris being late for rehearsals and things like that, and even up to the rave into the year 2000 concert that Prince put together with Morris and Lenny Kravitz and all that, and put all that together. But I just love hearing the background of the history of their relationship. I had some questions. One of the questions was, in Prince, because he had such an ego and he wanted so much control, was it due to the fact that he was afraid that he saw the potential in Morris, and he was afraid that we all know that Prince thought that the time was getting too big, and so he wanted control. He had control of that so it wouldn't get bigger than he was, in a sense. But I wonder if it wasn't just the time. I wonder if it was Morris Day. Was Prince afraid that he had created a monster? That he had created an alter ego in Morris Day and wanted to keep control? Because we know that Prince didn't want to let Morris do what he wanted to do, always wanted to keep him under contract, all this stuff. But the reasoning behind that, was it because he was afraid of Morris getting bigger than him because he saw himself in Morris, I wonder. And vice versa, you know. And I wonder if he really was afraid because he saw himself in Morris and he knew his potential. In the book, it wasn't a tell-all. And you get the sense that Morris Day really had respect and admiration for Prince. No matter how big his ego, he gave props to Prince. Took props for himself because he is a musician, and he should get that credit. But he doesn't tear down Prince. But in the story, Morris focuses on his own struggle with drugs and Prince's hate for them and how it was affecting Morris's work ethic. So there you go. I appreciate that Morris Day was honest about his own struggle. And I'm sure people have asked, did Prince use drugs? Who knows? But it seems that in the industry, you never know who's using drugs because who knows of the pressures that are there, and you know, how do you cope? Prince may have, may not have, but it seems as though his coping mechanism was creativity, music, art, recording, writing, performing. In addition to that, I don't know if I've said this already, but you do get a sense of Prince's character. It's like Prince, again, is telling the story, but because it's a discussion between two people, you see both their characters. And I think when two brothers are going at it, you get to see the real persons. You know, one's cool, calm, collected, the other one's like, you know, ready to go, ready to defend. But, you know, I really like that part because, again, you get to see the honesty and without tearing someone down, the character of Prince that we kind of already know about. The last couple of chapters were very touching because it's like they're reminiscing about the last time that they've seen each other. Yes, Morris is telling the story about his last time seeing Prince at Paisley Park, but still there's a discussion going on between Morris and Prince about it. And it's kind of like a session of healing. 2016, in the winter of 2016, when they were at Paisley Park, what stands out is that Prince still had plans, not only for himself, not only for other artists, but he still had plans for Morris Day, whether it was Morris Day in the time or just Morris Day. That man could not let go of Morris Day. One other question that I had while reading the book was, did Morris ever want to give up? Because the things that he expresses in this book is like, damn, why, you know, I personally probably would have given up. Maybe not, but you know, throughout the story I kept saying, you know, what are you reaching for? Are you gonna give up? But then in the end I realized that no, he didn't give up, and he wouldn't give up because of his love for music. He's a musician and he loved it, and that's what kept him going. The music kept him going, just like with Prince. The music kept both of them going. And those are my thoughts on Morris Day's book. I'm going to do some close-up shots of this book. I wouldn't suggest you go any further than this if you don't want to see the pictures inside. Thanks for watching. Peace and be well.